Toledo, 1568. In a cold dungeon beneath the cathedral, Elvira del Campo is strapped to a wooden chair. A cold, metal device, a segmented pear, is forced into her mouth. An inquisitor turns a screw. 1 click. 2. 3. Her jaw is stretched beyond its breaking point. 6 hours later, when they release her, there are no visible marks. No bruises. No blood. Only a woman who will never speak clearly again, and a signed confession the Holy Office can legally pronounce as voluntary. The official record of the Spanish Inquisition is filled with thousands of such stories. Historians have long told us it was a campaign for religious purity. But a deeper analysis of the Inquisition's own records, 44,000 trial summaries, reveals a chilling anomaly. Between 60 and 70% of the accused were women. What? In a society where men held all institutional power, why did the Church's most terrifying apparatus focus its resources, its manpower, and its most inventive cruelties on women? The answer is not a simple matter of heresy. It is a story of systematic, calculated policy. The year is 1478. Spain has just been forged into a single nation under the Reyes Católicos, Ferdinand and Isabella. The Reconquista is complete. But a new nation is a paranoid nation. To consolidate their power and purify the populace, they established the Tribunal of the Holy Office of the Inquisition. Its stated mission: to hunt heretics, conversos and moriscos, Jews and Muslims who had falsely converted to Catholicism. This is the history we have been told. But the data, compiled by scholars like Gustav Henningsen and Jamie Contreras, reveals a shadow policy. In an era of profound patriarchy, women, somehow, represented the majority of spiritual threats. This discrepancy does not add up. Unless the Inquisition's true targets were not what it claimed. The hunt for heretics was a cover for a far more practical and profitable enterprise. And to execute it, the Inquisition pioneered a new form of violence. One designed to be invisible, silent, and psychologically devastating. This silent torture was engineered with 3 specific goals. First, to leave minimal visible evidence, allowing confessions to be legally validated. Second, to destroy credibility, not just extract information. And third, to target the very foundations of female power, their wealth, their knowledge, and their biology. The first pillar of this strategy was simple: economic warfare. Imagine a widow in 1485 Toledo. Upon her husband's death, she becomes a dangerous anomaly, a woman of independent means. She may inherit his business, his properties, his liquid gold. She is for the first time unsupervised. And she is valuable. The Archivo Histórico Nacional in Spain contains thousands of property seizure records. When cross-referenced with trial dates, the pattern is undeniable. Spikes in accusations against women correlate perfectly with spikes in property confiscations. The mechanism was brutally efficient. Step 1. A woman inherits an estate. She is now visible, vulnerable, and wealthy. Step 2. An anonymous denunciation. The Inquisition required no evidence to begin an investigation. A jealous neighbor, a rival business, a nephew eager for an inheritance, any would suffice. Step 3. Arrest. The burden of proof is reversed. She must prove her innocence against unknown accusers. Step 4. Confession under silent torture. Step 5. Property confiscated. 1/3 to the crown, 1/3 to the church, and 1/3 to fund the Inquisition itself. It was a perfect, self-funding system. Consider the case of Maria González, a wealthy Toledo widow accused of Judaizing in 1485. The evidence was a single anonymous letter. In the dungeon, inquisitors used the araña or spider, a heated metal claw designed to tear breast tissue, leaving wounds that, once healed, would be invisible beneath clothing. After 6 hours, Maria confessed. She confessed to everything: meeting demons, desecrating the Eucharist, teaching her daughter's Jewish prayers. Her property, worth 3,000 ducats, was seized within a week. Her daughters were stripped of their inheritance, their names tainted, their marriage prospects ruined. By the time the trial records were made public, Maria's wounds had healed. The confession appeared voluntary. The Church maintained its reputation for mercy, while systematically looting female-held wealth. This exploration of the mechanisms of power, analyzing not just what happened but why, is the work of history. It requires moving beyond the official story and into the archives. If you value historical analysis that uncovers these hidden patterns, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. We are dedicated to exploring the complex, often uncomfortable truths that shape our world. But the economic motive, as powerful as it was only the beginning. The Inquisition's second pillar targeted a form of power far more fundamental, and one the Church could not control: female knowledge. The archives show that over 60% of accusations against women involved charges related to sexuality, so-called love magic, or midwifery. Why? Because the medieval midwife was not merely an assistant. She was a parallel institution. She held generational, unwritten knowledge of botany, contraception, pain management, and childbirth. She made medical decisions without consulting a priest or a male physician. She existed entirely outside of male institutional authority. She was, in every sense, ungovernable. So, the Inquisition created a category of torture designed specifically to destroy that power. These devices were not intended merely to inflict pain, they were designed to target the very organs that made women women. The paravaginal or vaginal pair, a metal bulb inserted and expanded by a screw, caused massive internal tearing, infection, and permanent sterilization. The mamspinnen or breast rippers destroyed a woman's ability to nurse. These techniques were not random. They were codified. The Directorium Inquisitorium, the official inquisitor's manual, explicitly details gendered applications of torture. The goal was not confession. It was the physical, biological elimination of female authority. In 1529, Isabel de la Cruz, a midwife in Guadalupe, was blamed when a noblewoman suffered a stillbirth. The accusation, a demonic pact. Under torture, she confessed to flying to Sabbaths and murdering babies in the womb. She was burned alive. The horrifying postscript? After her execution, Guadalupe's maternal and infant mortality rate tripled. The medical knowledge she held vanished. The Inquisition did not just target a woman, it targeted her knowledge. And in doing so, created a medical dark age that cost thousands of lives. This leads to the third and most insidious pillar: psychological warfare. The economic theft was brutal. The war on knowledge was devastating. But this final strategy was designed to break a woman's mind and destroy her credibility forever. This is gaslighting as institutional policy. Imagine being tortured until you confess to impossible things: flying on broomsticks, copulating with demons, eating unbaptized infants. Then, imagine the inquisitors using that very confession, extracted under duress, as proof that women are, by their nature, deceptive, hysterical, and unreliable. The tools for this were precise. Iron tongue clamps immobilized a woman's tongue during trial. When finally allowed to speak, the damage to her mouth made her speech slurred, proving she was drunk or possessed. The silla de pato, or ducking stool, caused near drowning, revival, and repeated submersion. No bruises. No broken bones. Only profound, untraceable trauma. We return to Elvira del Campo, the woman from our opening. Her crime was an accusation that she refused to eat pork. That was the entirety of the evidence. She was subjected to the taca or water torture, while the oral pear shattered her jaw. She confessed. The next day, in a moment of courage, she recanted, stating the confession was forced. So they tortured her again, for 8 hours. This time the confession stuck. The official trial records, which can be read today, describe her confession as freely given without coercion. The judges noted her recantation merely as proof of female fickleness. But upon reflection and prayer, she returned to the truth. The cruelty is not just in the violence. It is in the documentation. The Inquisition's immaculate records became the final weapon, painting the victim as unstable and the inquisitor as patient. It created a legal and cultural precedent that would echo for centuries. A woman's testimony is inherently suspect. The ultimate goal of this system was not just to control individual women. It was to destroy female power across generations that had not yet been born. In the 1990s, Spanish historians traced the family lines of Inquisition victims forward through time. What they found reveals the true devastating success of the Inquisition's project. Even 3 generations later, women descended from an accused which had 85% lower rates of literacy, property ownership, and marriage compared to their peers. The torture of one woman in 1520 statistically determined whether her great-granddaughter in 1620 could read. This was not collateral damage. It was the design. The mechanism was social. A public confession, even one visibly forced, tainted the family name. The daughters became unmarriageable. They could not inherit. They could not enter convents. They became servants, beggars, or prostitutes. The silence of the torture was key. Because the violence left no visible marks, the family could not prove abuse. They could not seek justice. To even tell the story was to appear to defend heresy. Visible torture creates martyrs. Silent torture creates shame. The macro consequences for Spain were catastrophic. Female property ownership, estimated at 30% in the 1400s, collapsed to less than 5% by the 1600s. While France and England were developing, Spain's female literacy rate in 1800 was where France's had been in 1600. 2 centuries of progress, erased. The Holy Office was officially abolished in 1834. The dungeons were closed, the devices destroyed. But the invisible damage, the cultural suspicion of an educated woman, the social fear of female autonomy, the legal assumption of female unreliability, that damage persisted. The Inquisition proved that you do not need gas chambers or mass graves to destroy a people. You only need a system that operates quietly, that documents its own legitimacy, and that makes its victims appear complicit in their own destruction. The Inquisition's war on midwives was a brutal attempt to sever women from their own medical knowledge. Yet, despite the pyres, that knowledge was never truly extinguished. It was simply driven deeper underground, into a secret network the Church spent centuries trying to erase. Click the video on your screen to learn the story of the medieval abortion underground, and the women who defied an empire to protect their autonomy.